Have you ever been debating with a friend and couldn't figure out how to get your point across? Well, there are 4 methods of persuasion that just might help you when you find yourself in these situations. I've studied these methods as part of my public speaking class, so I'll be able to share them with you effectively. Today I will discuss the methods of building credibility, using evidence, reasoning, and appealing to emotions, and explain how to use them to prove your point. The first method of persuasion is building credibility. According to Stephen Lucas in The Art of Public Speaking, credibility is the audience's perception of whether the speaker is qualified to speak on a specific topic or not. There are 2 factors of credibility. The first factor is competence, or how an audience regards a speaker's intelligence, expertise, and knowledge of the subject. The second factor is character, or how an audience regards a speaker's sincerity, trustworthiness, and concern for the well-being of the audience. It is always important to be professional and heartfelt when speaking so the audience knows you know what you are talking about and have a reason to trust you. There are also 3 types of credibility. There is initial credibility, or the credibility of the speaker before they start to speak. Secondly, there is derived credibility, or the credibility of the speaker produced by everything they say and do during the speech. Lastly, there is terminal credibility, or the ability of the speaker at the end of the speech. If at all possible, one should appear credible throughout the entire speech, but if one must choose when to appear credible, it should be at the end. The end of the speech will have the biggest impact, so it is important to appear credible here. Next, I will outline some ways you can enhance your credibility. Firstly, you should explain how and why you are knowledgeable enough to speak on the issue. Next, you should try to establish a common ground with your audience. By this, I mean you should relate yourself to those to whom you are speaking. Thirdly, you should simply try to give your speech as fluently, expressively, and with conviction as you possibly can. Next, I will discuss the second method of persuasion. The next method of persuasion is using evidence. Evidence, according to Lucas, is defined as supporting materials used to prove or disprove something. Here are a few tips for using evidence. One should be specific when using evidence. Don't focus on general ideas. Instead, cite exact details. Use the newest evidence you can find. Information and what is thought to be fact can change. Make sure your information is up to date. Make sure to use evidence from credible sources. If your source is not credible, you will not appear credible either. Finally, one should make their point clear when providing evidence. Now I will cover the third method of persuasion. The third method of persuasion is reasoning. Reasoning is the process of drawing a conclusion based on evidence. There are various types of reasoning. Firstly, there is reasoning from specific instances, which is when you progress from a number of specific facts to a general conclusion. Next, there is reasoning from principle, which is reasoning that moves from a general principle to a specific conclusion. Thirdly, there is causal reasoning, which is reasoning that seeks to establish a relationship between causes and effects. Lastly, there is analogical reasoning, or reasoning in which a speaker compares 2 similar cases and infers that which is true for the first case is also true for the second. No matter what type of reasoning you use, you should always make sure it is clear and well thought out. Next, I will discuss the fourth and final method of persuasion. The last method of persuasion is the appeal to emotion. Emotional appeals are used to make the audience feel some sort of emotion, such as fear, happiness, anger, or sadness. I will give you some tips on generating emotional appeal. The first is to use emotional language. Another tip is to use vivid examples. Try to make the audience feel like they are actually there. The final tip is to speak with sincerity and conviction. Show the audience you truly care. In conclusion, there are 4 methods of persuasion: building credibility, using evidence, reasoning, and emotional appeals. If you have a firm understanding of what these terms mean and follow the helpful tips I have laid out for you, I am sure your arguments in the future will be much more effective.